love, techno, cunt. Bonjour, salam, gumo, hello. Yeah, I'm back, and this is another episode of Love Techno Cunt. I'm sorry for last week's episode that was missing. I was partying, and as I usually do, I pre-upload my episodes so they come in advance. But I forgot this time, so here I am recording another episode, and I might have a little scratchy voice because I was a bit sick, and again partying a lot. I think today's topic is very much in tune with what I'm going through right now, with a lot of clubbing and drugs and a turmoilous is that word? Stormy transitional phase in my life, of being unemployed, searching for jobs, and searching for apartments, and trying to figure out a balance between keeping my sanity, doing the things that I love, and healing. So yeah, today's episode is going to be about healing, mental health, my journey to that, and my life in Berlin when it comes to that. I don't know how much I will deepen into the specific topics of that, because there's so much to talk about, and I feel like I've already talked about my mental health journey a bit in prior episodes, which I'm not quite sure about because I never re-listen to my episodes when I upload them. I'm sorry. So yeah, there might be some repetitions here. So yeah, let's start with the first question. What were the moments that shook my mental health the most in my life, and how did I begin to survive and rebuild from them? I think in my life, growing up again in a rural Bavarian household from African immigrants, not being able to fully live my quirky queer self, and being one of the few brown people in my majority white school, there was a lot of othering happening, and oppression that I retrospectively now see as that. And of course, I've had some moments of direct, like macro aggressions, and moments of people insulting me because I was too much, or looking like a migrant, being called all these slurs. I even got attacked at the streets at one point in my life, and I think those moments really can shape the way you perceive the world. Because when you're younger, you don't really understand why these things happen. I mean, you can sort of make your wild guesses, but you never know under which motivation a person makes the moves that they do. And once I got politicized and got educated on political topics, I felt like I had a wider grasp on why people acted the way that they acted, like through sociology and through political dynamics. You understand that things like racism, homophobia, the discrimination against neurodivergent people is something that everyone has in their brain, and everyone is acting upon them, even if they're not aware of it. So even I didn't, for the most time of my life, was working against myself, being racist towards myself, being queerphobic against myself, because that's how society teaches us to be. And of course, I feel like trying to figure out a way, masking a lot, lying a lot in my life, to construct the version of my life that was pleasing others, and also that worked for my life. I felt like that all took a lot of damage to my mental stability, and I began more and more to become less confident, or I projected confidence, as well as having a very low self-esteem, like self-value. I think that's what it boils down to. Like, when you have to mask a lot, when you have to endure a lot of psychological damage through discrimination, through not being able to fully embrace yourself because the household that you're living in, or the environment you're living in, is not capable of giving you that space, then your self-value becomes lesser and lesser, and you have to create an image of survival in order to play a role in society. And that plays into, and all of that plays into the relationships that I had. Like, when you're just projecting all the time, your character or the personality that you connect with others is a projected personality. So everything is more or less an illusion. People don't connect with the real character of you, they connect with the personality that you build out of insecurities. So none of the friendships that I had in the past were completely stable or completely something that I felt comfortable in, because it was never really me. It was always something that I thought people would like to see from me. And of course, some parts of it were truly me, but it was always a level of overcompensation, because I couldn't really stand behind what I was, because I had no confidence, I had no self-esteem. And that's why I tend to lie a lot, make up a lot of stories, because I wanted to be a cool person, a person who belonged, a person who has an interesting life, even though I just wanted to be someone, and to feel something instead of just always projecting. And I think one of the most the hardest lessons in my mental health journey was having lost my ex-boyfriend because of me cheating on him. Because again, when you're projecting something and when you're not living as someone who you're meant to be, you will do things behind the shadows or in the shadows to have some kick, some dopamine kick, in order to to feel something. So you start cheating. So you start downloading Grindr when you're having a monogamous relationship where you're not supposed to do that, in order to have that, to gain back some control over the projection that you're actually living. I hope that makes sense. I try to be as precise as possible with my words here. But yeah, that's how I recollect my memories from the past. And it's sad. It's sad to have been living in that struggle. But I'm glad that I tackled these journeys and I hit rock bottom and I made this decision to be someone that I am now. Because I was, after my ex-boyfriend left me, I was at a very dark space of like a lot of self-doubt and extreme low self-esteem. And when you're at that threshold, you really question a lot about your life. And at some point, I didn't even know if I wanted to still live. But I'm glad that I took responsibility, and I'm glad that I wanted to tackle these things and take responsibility and repair and heal. And understanding politics again, I know that everything that happened to me wasn't all my fault. The discrimination, the othering, the me having to project. But nonetheless, the damage was done, and healing is my own responsibility. So I started to ask myself the big questions, like, who am I? Why am I doing this? Why did I cheat? What do I really truly want to stand behind? And what kind of personality do I want to put out that is actually in line with my true character, like my inner heart value? And for that, I need friends who see me for who I really am, so that I can be a person around them that doesn't have to lie. That whenever I put something out, like a statement, a sentence, when I tell a story, it doesn't have to be a lie. It is like honesty and integrity and responsibility come with the things that you think. And yet it's a lot of work. Loving yourself is a lot of work, and it takes people to love you for who you are and for you try to be, in order to sustain that and hold yourself accountable. Again, leading into the topic of queer community and people appreciating you. But yeah, those were the things that I feel like were the most shocking in my mental health journey. And of course, there were other factors that played into that. Like for example, poverty, having lived through a lot of shit, like job searching, probably not knowing if I could afford my next meal. Drugs, of course, like when you're in a spiral, partying, clubbing, taking drugs, can feel like an escapism that helps you find some sort of comfort, which I don't want to blame, but you need a way to check on reality again. This is also a part of like a thing that I'm going through right now, because every time I feel like I have a struggle in my life, and right now it's job searching and apartment hunting, I tend to give myself the YOLO experience, like, hey, I mean, chill out, go out to a party, have a good time. It will all sort out. It will all fall in line, which is true. Everything will fall in line, but nonetheless, it should be a priority. Like, happiness doesn't come. It's not a reactionary movement. It's proactive. So by me speaking it out here in this podcast, I feel like I will make an effort to work on that now, even more, and to make it a priority, because mental health and physical health are connected to the lifestyle that you're living. And if I neglect my life or if I neglect money, income, financial stability, blah, 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 it will at some point affect my mental and my physical health. And that's also something that I need to have in mind in order to protect myself. Yeah, I think I've already answered a lot of questions. I think another topic that helped me a lot in my mental health journey was, again, having a self-concept, my alter ego being a version of freedom that taught me how to set boundaries and how to say no and how to choose happiness and joy and value over people-pleasing. But nonetheless, I feel like at this point where I'm at right now, my alter ego has become a bit dangerous for me, because too much freedom leads to disconnect from the systems that we live in. Like, capitalism is around me, and I have to play along in order to have some financial stability, which is a dependency, yes, but since we're not in a free world, my freedom is dependent on the system that I'm living in. And that's a lesson to be learned for me right now. My alter ego will always exist, and it's always therapeutic for me in order to give me an example of how life is meant to be. But again, I can't be free unless everyone else is free, and unless the system that I'm living in is free. So much of the topic of freedom and mental health. Wait, what other questions do we have? What have I learned about the difference between setting boundaries and seeking repair in relationships, friendship, and with myself? There was this Instagram post that I saw the other day, or it was today actually, where I don't know her name. I think her name is Christabel, Instagram. And she posts amazing decolonial therapeutic advices. And she said that Western therapy teaches us to overset boundaries rather than seeking repair and creating a mix of repair and boundaries, which is so true. Because when we take on therapy and learn how to be resilient and learn how to focus on our mental health, we learn isolationist moves like cutting people off, setting boundaries, this is my piece, like this kind of mindset, which is something that I tend to do, but it doesn't seek connection, it just seeks boundary. And I think especially in friendships and people that you love, boundaries are important, especially when you don't see that the other person is working on them themselves. But mutual accountability and mutual communication and respect and the goal of reparation should always be something that healing should work for, especially when you're in a community setting. So that's what I feel like I also need to do, and what I'm majorly doing in the friendships that I'm having is proactively approaching topics that irk me, seeking out the confrontation, respecting other people's boundaries, but also offering help and support rather than distance. I don't like that mindset of like, I'm a role model and I will set boundaries and all of you need to figure out your shit alone because I did figure my shit out alone. No, we can help each other. We can ask for support. We can talk about stuff. We can have like interventions when we see that our friends are struggling. We can offer consultative talks. Like, we don't have to go through shit alone. Like, this is how people get isolated because they set their own boundaries. They see that the outer world is hurting them, so they completely shut themselves off in order to heal, which is, I feel like, leading to more and more neglect and a lack of community. So yeah, that's how I want to approach my mental health journey, just by seeking repair rather than boundaries. But yes, boundaries are also important. Like, I felt like I've had, I think the biggest example of me setting boundaries is with my parents. Like, for the longest time, I've tried to make them understand how important generational healing is, psychotherapy is, taking accountability for one's emotion is. And since they never took me seriously in that regard or took themselves important enough to take care of their mental health, it was the only choice for me to set that boundary and cut them off. And yeah, and so I feel like there's also the chance of repair at some point in the future, but it can only happen when the healing is done on their part in order to see eye on eye. And that's the message that I want to give out to queer people and to people who have an estranged relationship with people that they love, is sometimes love means setting boundaries. And one of the strongest forms of love is giving people space to heal, even if that means letting go, or respecting their decision to go. And yeah, which is what I did with my ex-boyfriend. Like, he wanted to leave me, which is completely fair because I cheated on him. And my love for him is, for him and for myself, is to respect the decision and work on myself and take responsibility. And yeah, that's all I can say to that topic right now. Very deep topic, very in like a lot of introspective work. But I feel like that's something that is so important in this life, to finally go inward and ask ourselves the big questions. Who am I? What do I stand for? How do I work on these things? How do I check my own emotions, my own impulses, and not making long-lasting decisions due to short, impulsive emotions? Because my life is worth being structured in an emotional way, and emotional maturity and healing should be a top priority, and there should be no shame and stigma around it. Yeah. So thank you for listening. If you have questions regarding this topic, hit me up, and go seek therapy.